faster than a speeding typewriter, more powerful than a printing press, able to speak over tall buildings in a single sound. Look, up on the dial!
It's a conservative!
It's a liberal! It's Supermouth! Yes, it's Supermouth, strange visitor from the past with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal talk show hosts. Supermouth, who can change the course of local politics, bend ears with his bare mouth, and who, disguised as Mike Wiley, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan radio show, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
Good morning, class, and welcome to another adventure into podcast radio. Your lesson for today is, it's not your government. It's not your government. This may be your country if you decide you want to keep it, or you're going to let them take it away from you, which I, of course, am not going to allow them to do. They can run me over in a tank. I'm not stopping. I've been involved in this war against America since 1993. And it was the attack on Waco that woke me up to who the F is in the White House and what country they work for. The Democratic Party has a history of attacking and hating America. It's gone on for 165 years. The attack on Waco was quite chilling because it was religious people who've been by themselves, living alone in peace and prosperity, and the Clintons decided to attack them. At first, we didn't understand why they were being attacked because we were paying attention to the fact that for some reason, the FBI and the Clintons allowed the World Trade Center bombing to occur in February 26, 1993. And I don't know if they thought it was a major oops on their part, but they decided that 2 days later, they're going to go ahead and attack peaceful, loving Christians in Waco, Texas, okay? It's no secret that the communists and the Nazis and the Marxists hate religion, they hate God, and that's why I'm in this battle, because the guy upstairs has kept me alive 3 times in the last 30 years, and so he wants this mouth doing what it does best, and that is speak the truth. Now, I happen to have a varied background of business finance. I retired as a CFO, but I did broadcast radio until Hillary Clinton had me removed from the airwaves in 1995 because I threatened to run against her in the 2000 U.S. Senate race in Massachusetts within 2 months of me broadcasting live on Boston radio to come on up and I will debate her. She came up with an $8 million FCC waiver to the ownership to get me off the air when I was blacklisted. But they can't blacklist me on podcasts, so that kind of worked out pretty good, I guess. Anyways, gives me the opportunity to speak to you. You have the opportunity to listen to what I have to say, and you can decide whether I'm insane or not. Nancy Pelosi and her little Nazi group and her little left-wing lunatic Marxist pig scumbags, whatever you want to call them, they decided that these people didn't have a constitutional right. And now that the people of J6 have been released, we now have what I'm using as testimony as to what the hell happened and why. And it's quite chilling. And the reason why it's chilling is, it's not your government. From 2021 to 2024, it wasn't your government. We actually don't know whose government it was, because it wasn't Joe Biden's, because he had no brain and they all knew it. They violated 4 years of our constitutional rights by putting someone in power who didn't have the ability to be in power. We don't know who led. We don't know who came up with all these stupid laws and actions and DEI and kiss my ass and all this other destroying children's lives and everything. It was ridiculous. But we had to put up with it for 4 years. And then, of course, this time, we knew to be prepared for the steal. We knew what they would do. And this time, they didn't get to put in 15 million spare votes that they needed. And then when everybody sat back and looked at the results of 2012, 2016, 2020, 2024, they went, hey, what the hell is that? Where are those extra 15 million votes from? Because we don't see them in 2012, we don't see them in 2016, and we don't see them in 2024. But there they are in 2020. What happened? Huh? Only part of the civil war that we've still been in with the Democrats. They must be in power. They don't care what they do. They will not allow us to be in power. They have a history of assassinating presidents, impeaching presidents falsely. It's just too much, and it can't continue. So the Democrats need to go away. Get the hell, start your own country here. We'll give you part of California. Okay, you can have the far left Looney Tune Pacific Coast. We know you like that. And you can have it in Oregon, and you can have it in Washington. But we're going to create new states called East Washington, East Oregon, East California, North Nevada, Western Illinois, Western Minnesota, Northern New York, New York Islands, and South Colorado. We're going to create 9 new states with 18 new GOP senators, and I believe at least 12 more congressional reps. 4 from New York that were stolen by the judicial system in New York in 2023. While we were busy watching them go after Trump in court, they were busy getting rid of 4 congressional districts through gerrymandering. They made them go away. So instead of having 11 reps from New York, there's now only 7 Republican reps. And then in Chicago, their gerrymandering is at least costing 3 Republican House seats. So those would come back to the Republicans when West Illinois becomes a state and Chicago, or whatever you want to call it, is left to itself. And then there's California, and California's, I've just gone through extensive analysis on California, and it's 52 districts, and I've pretty much got the states split up, because that's one of the first states we're going after. But I believe there's at least possibly 12 minus 9, there's at least 3 House seats that they've kind of stolen from us. We actually watched it this past year. So there's about 14, 15 House seats that we would pick up. And that would give us enough strength and power to step on all these stupid things that the far left Looney Tune Democrats want to do to destroy our nation. Today is about January 6th. Now, having been able to read legal documents, I can tell you right now that there were only 44 representatives and senators on the floor at the time that this charade was going on, and therefore it wasn't a quorum. Now, an interesting thing, I was going to watch the January 6th review and certification this year, and I was all excited to see the Democrats get up and say stupid shit like they did in 2017 as to why Donald Trump didn't win the election in 2016, which of course it was all baloney and it was just crap. But the Democrats, always adjusting the Constitution by taking away our rights, did it again. They made a difference and they changed so that on January 6th, it's a certification, but you can't challenge it. Why can't you challenge an election certification if there's errors? Because they didn't want to go through what they did in 2021 on January 6th, where they went ahead and killed a woman. Yes, they all talk about all these police officers killed and stuff. No police officers were killed. Some of them died by committing suicide. Matter of fact, 4 of them did. And the question is, did they commit suicide because of what they did that day? Because you're going to hear I have videos I'm going to play for you today of people will tell you what happened and what happened to them. And what you're going to realize is it's a scam. The Democratic Party has always been a scam. The election fraud on November 3rd, 2020 was a scam. We all know it. Most of us know it. All these people knew it. But Nancy Pelosi, who is some far-left Looney Tune, Nazi, communist, Marxist, whatever you want to call them, and she controlled this whole thing. This was her, what I call the Pelosi entrapment. And I hope that someday in history, that's what it'll be called, the Pelosi entrapment, because that's what it was. And when you listen to these people's talk, they're going to give you little snippets of information that nobody else gives you. For instance, did you know that the subways were shut down that day? I'm going, geez, what day was January 6th? Well, it was a Wednesday. Why would the subways in Washington, D.C. be shut down in the middle of a work week? What was happening? What was going on? Now, if you're going to think logically of this, if the subways are shut down, then all these people can't go in the subway. They have to walk to where they're going. That's perfect. Because if you're going to rustle up cattle, the cattle need to be able to walk. And you need to get on your horse and you need to get them into into the corral. Well, they have to get the Americans into the corral before they can lynch them. This whole thing was now, how can you prove that this was all a scam? One bit of evidence. None. None. We saw these stupid TV commercials called the January 6 hearings by 11 people or 12 people that were committing a crime. 2 Republicans, Liz Cheney and the jerk from Chicago, Illinois, or whatever, and the Democrats. Now, how did we know it was going to be a scam right off the bat? Because when they have something like this, the minority group, which was the Republicans, get to put about 4 or 5 people on the committee. So they chose Jim Banks, and they chose Jim Jordan, and Nancy Pelosi went, No, we can't have them on the committee. They'll tear the shit out of us right on television, and that's what we don't want. Remember, this is a car wash, sub-wash, whatever you want to call it, whitewash. They're pulling this 100% out of their ass, Nancy Pelosi's entrapment. That's what it is. That's what it'll always become known as. And I'm not stopping till they all go to jail. I'm sorry. One thing you're going to hear from these people that I've got video on, they all believed in God. They all believed that they had rights from God. And so do I. And that's why we fight. It's in our nature to defend our rights because we're a free people and we're not going to allow the same shit that happened in Nazi Germany to happen here. But I got to tell you, it was pretty damn close on what happened to the January 6 people in this country. And while all this was going on, they did take 23 people and have them arrested, and they were put in jail for protesting outside abortion clinics. Anyways, I tell you this because since 1993, with the shooting and death and killing and burning of 110 people in Waco, Texas, 80 of them Branch Davidians and about 30 children burned, and you're going to see a video of this, burned alive. Now, why were they burned alive? Well, because we're going to send the ATF in with tanks, and they're going to shoot tear gas into these buildings. We're just not going to tell anyone that these canisters with the tear gas also have a petroleum additive to it, so they'll burn. And that's how the place burnt down, and all these people were burnt alive. And that was the American government in 1993 with Bill and Hillary Clinton in the White House. And what did it tell you? The Nazis are in town. The Nazis are in town. The Marxists are in town. The communists are in town. But it's not your government. It was your government from 2017 to 2020, and it's your government again. Wake up, smell the coffee, and get into the battle. We need everyone to get into the battle. You need to activate yourself into a different mind frame, okay? 1776, actually 1775. And the interesting part is Hillary Clinton decided to kill these people at Waco and will blow up the Oklahoma City bombing on April 19th. It was her decision. Why April 19th? Because that's Patriots Day in Massachusetts. The only state in the Union that has Patriots Day as a holiday. And that was when the shot heard round the world. And January 6, 2021 is another day that's going to go down in history. And it's going to be called Pelosi's Entrapment. And we're going to get to that now. Okay. Pelosi's Entrapment. To cap off the largest known election theft in American history, Pelosi Entrapment was a planned attack on U.S. citizens visiting the capital of their country and to see Donald Trump. Millions were there. Wanting to see Trump was their crime. They were sucked in like a bug to a spider. None had intent to harm or cause any destruction. They went to see Trump, and they went to voice their constitutional rights based on the First Amendment, that there was election fraud. They all knew it. It was obvious to them, and they wanted to make sure that 6 electors from 6 states that committed the fraud were switched over, because there shouldn't have been votes for Joe Biden for those 6 states where fraud was committed. None had intent to harm or to commit any destruction. They were at the Capitol, and they owned the Capitol. I don't know if you understand this, but it's our country, it's our government, they're our buildings, and we paid for them. The D.C. police and the Democrats creating a whole scam to cover their desire to prevent the American people from having their constitutional rights of certification challenged. The 6 members to expose the false election rules Democrats try to get away with. That's why there was fraud. Okay? So I've got a series of videos I'm going to show you. You're going to see the videos. If you haven't been watching my shows, you'll always notice that because of my years in law, even though I never became an official lawyer, and that's because I guess God didn't want me to, but he wanted me to stay alive, because I almost died on July 13th, 2012 of an aortic aneurysm. A thoracic surgeon from Pakistan came and saved my life, and I was scheduled originally to go to law school online in July, and I happened to decide to move it to September for some reason. I didn't know what was going to happen, and then sure enough, something did happen. But I went to the school for 1 year, and I learned tort law, that's negligence and stuff like that, criminal law, and contract law, business law. And that's when I also found out that I had a reading disorder, and I couldn't pass the tests on a timely basis because I have trouble reading. I didn't know I had trouble reading until then. But because of the fact that I was still, when you have open heart surgery, it takes like 6 months to recover. So here I am trying to go to law school at night online and exist during the day. And of course I had to work, so I got a part-time bookkeeping job because, I'm not rich, wasn't rich. So I never went to get my law degree, and I said, to hell with it, I don't need it. I know enough to be dangerous. And the landlord up in Rhode Island, who I sued for this nice gimpy left leg I have now, I won. We had to wait 5 years for him to die because he refused to settle. But right after he died, Allstate called me and go, hey, he's dead, let's get this over with. And they paid me a good sum of money. And then I also won a lawsuit against the state of Florida, Workers' Comp Division, and we went to court on that and sat in front of the magistrate, and they got 15 grand lump sum. I don't know where that money went to. I can't tell you, but I won it. So I'm pretty good in law. I'm pretty good at picking out facts. And while I was listening to these people talk, they were coming up with some very interesting facts about what went on that nobody knows about, because the Democrats don't want you to know about it, because the Democrats don't want you to know they've committed a major crime against the American people. And I have to do something about it. It's the way it is. It's who I am. There's nothing I can do about it, okay? In 1972, they were going to ship me off to Vietnam. My blood pressure was 160/80. Matter of fact, it used to be in really good shape. But for some reason, these past couple of months, it's been up to about 140, which is considered high because, again, I got this aneurysm. I can't have this blood pressure issue. But so I didn't go to Nam because of high blood pressure. I was 4F'd. But I don't have to pass a physical to fight the enemies of my nation. And that's what we're doing. And we did it legally. And of course, the Democrats, being the Manchurians, being the Confederates, being the progressives that they have over these 165 years, are right off the bat starting up again, trying to terrorize the nation. Okay. Now, the first video is of an asshole on MSNBC. And he's trying to make a point about Trump. And he's trying to point out that what Trump really wants to do is make America white again. Yeah, I guessed it. It's true, you know. He wants to make America white again because he felt bad about getting so much support from blacks and Hispanics and everybody else. But you see, the far left Looney Tune, Nazi, Marxist, Communist, whatever you want to call them, they're all the same bunch of scum. They all act the same way. He says, well, of the illegal immigrants arrested, 1,179 of them didn't have a criminal record. Dear asshole, let me just say something. If they cross the border illegally, they automatically have a criminal record. So here's this first jackass. Listen to him.
Look, you know, I think there's always this gap between what they say they're going to do and what they do. And that is because what Donald Trump is interested in is using genuine public concerns that are out there and weaponizing them to then do, you know, much more sweeping things for which there is no mandate, right? So in this example, is there I was on with you last week when we were talking about polling that shows there is support in the country for deporting undocumented people with criminal records. There is support for that. So Donald Trump will talk about that and then kind of run on that. And then, as you're seeing in the reporting just now, what they actually do behind the scenes, they trust will not really get out. And it is part of a different agenda they have, which is really to make America white again.
Okay. This is an idiot trying to create a false narrative about Trump who wants to make America white again. It's bullshit. Second video. What did the FBI act like? Were they acting like Nazis from 1933 when they were going out and grabbing Jews and taking them out of their homes and doing all sorts of bad shit to them besides killing them and sending them to concentration camps? Was this like what the FBI was doing to J6 people? Here's a clip.
Lights. aufstehen! Du, aufstehen! Hoch! Werft ihn raus! Los, ab, auf! Auf! Lauf!
Okay. Unfortunately, if you haven't gone to a Yad Vashem, or a Holocaust memorial in English, then you haven't really learned what evil is and how evil can be. I'm Jewish, and when you grow up Jewish, people give you shit until you strangle them by the neck until they're almost dead. Anyways, you have to learn to defend yourself. And you have to learn that there's people that are going to hate you because you're a Muslim, or you're a Jew, or you're a Christian. There's people out there like communist Chinese, Marxists, Nazis who don't like religion. They don't like religious people. And one theme you're going to notice is all these people all believed in God, some stronger than others. And what they're going to tell you, you need to listen to, because make believe you're in court, you're on the jury, and you're listening to these victims tell their stories. And what they tell you is what happened, but the media doesn't want you to know that. The Democrats don't want you to know that. The question is, why do the Democrats and the FBI act like Nazis? What they did to these people was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And it shouldn't continue to happen, and something needs to be done about it. And I don't know which legal group is going to get off their ass and start going after the Democrats for all this shit they did on January 6th. Remember, they stole an election from us, and then they had to make sure that we didn't overcome it with an election in the House where Trump would have won. This was the reason for the Pelosi entrapment. It was going to be this one big thing, and then we're going to keep Trump from running again because we're going to say he ran an insurrection. It was an insurrection. I'm sorry, but the only people armed were the police, so it can't be an insurrection. Stop lying to the American people. God, I hate people who lie. I can't stand it. Oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah. Hey, Bloomy, did you ever fight in Vietnam? Oh yeah, I was there. Really? And you're still a senator? You got that idiot partner there who's Chris Myers or whatever the hell his name is. I tell you, it gets sickening to listen to these Democrats because they speak as if you're dumb as shit. They speak as if you don't have a say in anything. You don't matter, even though you're the owners of the country. And it's your government they're supposed to be working for. And what's going on now? You're watching Donald Trump take their big floated government of every dime you can spend. They're getting judges to rule that Trump can't be president and do what he wants to do. No, you can't do that, Trump. You're a Republican. Only Democrat presidents can do what they want to do. That's why we shoot Republican presidents. Okay. So you just saw that second video. Now, this is Waco. I want you to take a look to see what started in 1993 with the Clintons and how I got involved in this war. It is a war, and that's when the Democrats were able to take over power after committing a fraud called the Great Depression, which wasn't real. Yeah, you see, what happened was they said, okay, look, here's what we're going to do. We want to make everybody poor than shit. And then everybody's going to blame the Republicans, and they won't elect Republicans for 60 years, which is exactly what happened. And Milton Friedman tells you it wasn't real. If the Federal Reserve was doing the job they were intended to do instead of doing what the Democrats wanted, it would have been a garden variety recession that would have ended sometime around April 1930, and everything would have been fine. And then the 1930 elections would have still been Republican victories. But because the Depression was put in as a depression and a fake depression, people thought, oh my God, we're all going to hell. It's the Republicans' fault. Yeah, we had 12 years of Republicans called the Roaring 20s, and everybody made money, and everybody was wonderful. But all of a sudden, for some reason, it all turned around. Nobody could believe that the Democrats could do shit like this. They do it all the time. January 6th is proof that they do it all the time. So here's a quick video on Waco, just to let you see what we saw and why the burning of 110 Americans, burning them alive, kind of lets you know, hey, your government's screwed, buddy. You got the wrong people running your country.
In 1993, Americans watched breathlessly as FBI agents faced off with a self-proclaimed religious prophet and his armed followers in Central Texas. This was the Waco siege, a weeks-long standoff between the federal government and a religious group known as the Branch Davidians. February 28, 1993, agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms arrived at the Mount Carmel compound armed with search warrants for the property and an arrest warrant for Koresh. Gunfire erupted, although it's unclear which side started it. At the end of the 2-hour standoff, 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians were dead. After a 51-day standoff, Attorney General Janet Reno gave the FBI the green light to raid Mount Carmel. On April 19, 1993, tanks rolled in and punched holes in its walls and deposited nearly 400 canisters of tear gas inside the building. Several hours later, a fire broke out.
This far out in the country without fire hydrants, you have to haul all of your water. It's just a very bad scenario here at this point.
Winds fanned the flames and reduced the entire property to ash within an hour. Around 80 Branch Davidians died, including David Koresh and 25 children.
Okay. The fourth video. An American government would follow the Constitution. What country has been in charge the last 4 years? In the last 4 years, what country has been in charge of our country? In charge of our government? My guess is that if you follow what happened in 1992 all the way to now, it's the Chinese, the Manchurians. The Clintons were Arkansas politicians who were bought out by the Manchurians, and the history of that, when we go through it, is amazing of what the Clintons were up to for their 8 years of hell on America. So the fourth video is to pay close attention. This was Pelosi's entrapment. She hated these people because they are Trump people. And we remember this? When right on TV she was carrying up Trump's speech in front of everybody at the State of the Union. They should have put her in an electric chair 5 minutes after that. Just think. If they had put Nancy Pelosi in an electric chair 5 minutes after she tore up that TV, there wouldn't have been a January 6th. January 6th was a Nancy Pelosi deal. And one great part is you see that asshole Schumer, and he's sitting in the chair going, I want to know who refused the 10,000 guard. That's what I want to know. It was that person sitting next to you, full of shit, Pelosi. They were trying to blame Trump for everything. Trump had nothing to do with it, except the fact that he enraged people to be Americans and to love their country. Here's the fourth video.
As you feel more free now to
Absolutely.
share your side of things.
Absolutely.
Versus days ago.
Correct. Yes. While I was incarcerated, not that I kept to myself, but I wasn't yet prepared to share the extent of what I had gone through and my thoughts and feelings on not only that day, but the prosecution of all the January 6th defendants, which was, to me, a grave injustice.
How so?
We received unfair trials in D.C. There was, in fact, no way to get a fair trial in D.C. The outrage from the residents in D.C. was very high. So to say anything against what I call warpath was, to see all of us brought to justice to the fullest extent of the law, although the things that happened that day aren't exactly how the media made it seem to be, and how there was a lot of rhetoric that doesn't portray what actually happened if you were there. And so that's where it's great that we can now tell our story of what it was like, as opposed to people who heard it secondhand or third hand through others.
What was it like in your eyes?
It was a crazy day. It was the wildest experience of my life. But it was more peaceful than what was portrayed. There was a lot of escalation on the side of the Capitol Police. They were not allowing us to peacefully protest, and in fact were being very aggressive, hitting women, children, elderly, throwing flashbangs in the crowd, spraying us with OC spray, using their batons to hit people that were just peacefully protesting there at the Capitol that day, which led to an explosion of aggression.
All right, fifth video. Nazis stormed this elderly couple's home. Grandpa got run over by a reindeer. No, Grandpa got run over by the FBI. Pay close attention to this. Pay close attention. I cut out the part about when they explained, they go through all this shit with the FBI, and then they go in front of a magistrate. He lets them go on their own recognizance, but they can't get home because they don't have a car. They don't have any winter clothes because the FBI wouldn't allow them to wear a coat. Who the hell are these assholes? Christopher A., come on down! This is the video of these two elderly people that really breaks at your heart, but really gets you into the Nazi zone. Listen to exactly what she says and what they did to her.
I got arrested on February 18th of 2021. My husband and I both. The FBI came in force. There was probably 20 or 30 agents, a SWAT team, an armored vehicle with a battering ram in our front yard. It was the dead of winter in February. It was snow on the ground. And this was 5:30 in the morning. They called us out on a bullhorn, waking the whole neighborhood. And our bedroom's in the back of the house, and we were sleeping. We didn't hear it. Our daughter, who was, I think, 16 at the time, shared her bedrooms at the front. She came knocking on our door, said, Mom, Dad, the FBI's out here. We're like, what? And so I got dressed. My husband has health issues, so it took him longer to get dressed. So I went down first, and I walked out the door, and there was all these FBI's with guns pointed at me, red dots on my chest. And I was going to go back in and get a coat, and they said, no, stay out here and leave the door open. They sent a drone into our house. My husband was sitting on the steps trying to get his shoes on. And it was surreal. I mean, never in my life, never had any trouble with the law, never been in any kind of trouble. So then the agents, 2 or 3 of, I don't know, several agents came in to the house, and they showed us that, well, they didn't show us initially a search warrant or anything, but it was a warrant, but I thought it was kind of weird because it wasn't filled in like we're looking for this or that or whatever. But what they ended up doing was like 4 pages of stuff they took out of our house, and they just listed it on that page. But they put us in shackles, belly chains, ankle shackles, whatever, took us in separate cars to be interviewed at the FBI headquarters in Kenwood. And then from there, we spoke to them. And then from there, they took us down to the marshal's office, which I guess is in the federal building or courthouse or whatever downtown. We were put in little holding cells. We're pictured, fingerprinted, and all that good stuff.
Okay, 6 video. This is a guy that's, I believe, a man of God. I believe he's a pastor or a priest or something. And you can see how he speaks and how he thinks. But listen to what he says, because he says everything astutely. And he nails it right in the head.
Can you pick up the criminal complaint there? Can you just read the charges, first of all, that were brought against you by the Justice Department?
Sure. The first charge is entering and remaining in a restricted building or grounds. Disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building or grounds. Disorderly or disruptive conduct in a Capitol building, parading, demonstrating, or picketing in any Capitol building.
And what was the last charge again?
It was called parading, demonstrating, or picketing in any Capitol building. That's 40 U.S.C. 5104.
And you pled guilty to that?
Yes, we've pled guilty to that.
And why did you do that?
We felt very highly compelled by the situation, as did a lot of other J6ers. Just a lot of pressure to take a charge, because if we didn't, there is what they call a penalty for that in the court system. So we had a really good attorney who advised us along the way, and we just decided to take the least of the misdemeanors that was in our plea agreement. What we saw was the most amazing gathering of people ever. And we even climbed a tree, and we could not see the end of the crowd. And the people were having fun. It was a serious event, and we all knew it. And the people that converged on that place knew the reason that they were there was because they felt that the government was doing something that was against the Constitution and against our right to vote. Well, first of all the roads were blocked, and we stood in line for 2 hours in the cold for a subway, for a metro train, and found out it was closed after standing in line for 2 hours. So we walked all the way from Pentagon City, all the way to where the speech was near the ellipse. So my wife and I walked the whole way. So what we saw was it was inexplicably shut down. Dump trucks on entrance and exit ramps. It was kind of eerie in a sense. So what happened at the Capitol, from what I personally saw, I can tell you what I think about what happened, what I saw, what else I saw. But what I saw was we were standing in the crowd on the mall side of the Capitol when a gunshot went off and a guy got hit in the face about 50 feet from us, and we so close that our eyes were watering, and we smelled the pepper gas, and the wind was blowing right in our direction. When that happened, I'm like, wait a minute, what's happening? Then all of a sudden, a bunch of flashbangs went off. So people were getting shot, hit with munitions from the police, but there was nobody confronting them. And what I saw was something that was illegal, We were there to exercise our free speech, and we have the right to voice our concern over especially something as egregious as what we believed was happening in the elections. So what I saw, there was an inflection point also going through the crowd were murmurings that Pence had sent this letter that no one could see until afternoon. So right before the proceedings, he said, I'm not gonna approve the alternate electors. And that's when people got upset and people started going in.
Did you and your wife go in, or were you outside?
We did. Frankly, we prayed about it beforehand. We weren't sure if this was a setup or, but we wanted our voice to be heard. We really kind of struggled with that decision, and we prayed, and we just felt God led us to go ahead and go in. And so we did.
Tell me, how'd you go in?
So on the mall side was where they had the scaffolding where they were doing some improvements to the building. So me and my little girl, we just climbed right up the scaffold, and we went in. There was no one, no barriers. There was nobody saying you can't go in there, and so we did. And
when you got there, were the doors open? And
doors were open.
In?
They were smashed. Okay, so that was my first clue. The doors were smashed, but the police were there, and they were basically ushering people in. And I couldn't figure out why they were doing that. Probably because there was a lot more of the people there than they were. The reason we decided to go in is because we felt strongly that Congress needed to hear our voice while they were in session, because we believed wholeheartedly and based on research and documents that we had that our vote was stolen.
So I got to ask you this question. Since when is the Capitol restricted? And if so, why were people let in, and why were people allowed to use the Capitol? Democrats violated these people's constitutional rights. Why? Because they have now, as far as the Democrats are concerned, none. Why were these people pressured into taking a charge? Listen to this part, this last interview. Everybody was told to take a charge. You had to take something. You couldn't claim that you were innocent. They weren't going to accept that. They weren't going to accept that you were innocent. What kind of violation is that? Come on, there's all these legal minds. Why aren't they stepping up to the plate? Let's take these people and send them to electric chairs. Not the J6 people, the Democrats that put this shit together. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And the same damn people that pull this shit are starting to pull more shit. And they're going to attack and attack and attack. And I'm getting sick and tired of it. I'm getting sick and tired. They still want to try to kill Trump. And some guy came by who wanted to blow up the Treasury Secretary. And J6s were employing their constitutional rights. And Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats wanted to let everyone know, you have no constitutional rights. It's not your government. Get that through your thick skull. Why were the subways closed on January 6th, a Wednesday? Pelosi's entrapment was a military action against the American people. The police attacked the people. Listen to what these people say. Nothing happened until the police attacked first. Everybody was in a defensive mode. And one other interesting thing was this one guy said that some memo was coming out at a certain time of the day, and everybody found out that Pence was not going to allow the alternate electors to be chosen, to be put in place. In other words, he was not going to allow the Republicans to present their 6 cases of election fraud and the removal of electors. That was the whole reason for January 6th. The Democrats were not going to spend all this time fixing the election. They spent $5 million for this one black guy. I think his name was Gary Bell. He owns GBI out of Tennessee. It's hard to find out who he is. But he had 20 offices, then he had people, and he had all these guns. And there's a story about when the FBI and the Michigan police, the Michigan police, found his people operating over in Muskegon or something, or Muskegon. And I think that was just to keep them away from Detroit, because Detroit was the big case. That's where they were going to get these 15 million fake ballots. They were going to put the fake ballots in the names of people that either did exist or didn't exist in Detroit, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Milwaukee. Now, the proof of this is that the dumbasses at the NAACP legal department filed a lawsuit against Trump within 2 weeks of the election, stating that he was trying to prevent 4 black people from Detroit from voting. And they had this whole thing prepared. You're trying to tell me in 2 weeks you prepared this whole case? 48 pages. I read some of it. Can't read all of it because a lot of it's Looney Tune. But you go through and you pick out the key points of where they step on a landmine that they don't want you to know they stepped on a landmine. But you did realize then that this was the deal. Okay, and then when you see there's a Chiron, when one of the Fox stories were being done, and they talked about the fact that Biden had 72% of the black vote in October of 2020. If he had 72% of the black vote on October 2020, mid-October, there was only 2 weeks to go before the election. How did he go from 72% to 91%? How did he pick up 19% more black vote in 2 weeks? And that's the deal. GBI, the NAACP in their fake lawsuit, they covered up or tried to cover up the whole deal. And the deal was basically this. The Lord God protector of black people, Barack Obama from Kenya, didn't do shit for the American black communities. They thought that the first black president was going to do something for blacks. He didn't do shit for them. Obama's a piece of garbage. We all know he's a piece of garbage. And so what happened was that in 2016, 765,000 blacks decided not to vote. Why vote? If you come out of the woodwork and you vote for the first black president and he doesn't do a damn thing to help you people out, what's the sense of voting? 765,000 blacks didn't come out to vote for Hillary Clinton. And she lost to Donald Trump. Oh, we got a problem. Hello, Democratic Party. So what are you going to do? Well, in 2020, you have to make sure that you add 15 million black vote in the area, in these major cities, and that's where all of this was coming from. And there's an interesting little video of some guy. You ever hear of a guy named Rudy Giuliani, who they said was pulling all this fake baloney? He actually had this one woman who was working in the Detroit polling area, and she was talking about these things, that these ballots that were coming in ordered, numbers in order, which didn't make any sense. They're supposed to be coming in the mail. And she realized what was going on, that there were fake ballots coming into Detroit. So she, on TV, and under oath, she filed an affidavit, was explaining what these people did.
When I started writing down the ballot numbers and the last names of the person of the ballot that had the name on that ballot, they were all in sequence. These are absentee ballots, mail-in ballots. They cannot be in sequence. 2232 cannot have 2233 next to it, because if they're mailed in, they come in all different numbers. And when I started noticing that these numbers are almost next to each other, like one or the other was in the middle, but then they were almost next to each other, my antennas went up. That's exactly when I thought something is not right here. Then I asked the supervisor. There was not even a date on those envelopes. It said November 0-2020. There was no second number there. Then I said, what is the date on this one? Then they got really mad at me. They said, you're not letting us do our job. You're disturbing us. And at that point, because we really don't want to be kicked out, so we were just kind of not challenging anything because we want to still stay in the room because we barely had anybody. Not only that, the sequence ballot numbers were all from the same area, like the Goddard Street in the downtown Detroit. Goddard Street, sequential ballots, signatures were all alike. They had no date stamp. It said, like, it was empty after 0. There was no third or second or first or nothing. And none of them were coming up in the system. They were all being entered manually. They even knew that none of these details would even be in the poll book or in the system.
But they go like, oh, never mind. Come on. Just because there's 1,000 people signing affidavits, okay, that could have been arrested if they were full of baloney. Somehow that just went right out the door. But in 2020, who was running for president for the Democrats? Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is a known racist. All black people know he's a racist. He's the one that helped Bill Clinton put together that bill in 1993-94 that put black people away for walking on the wrong side of the road. They were putting black people away like it was a Christmas holiday. And it was Trump that let over, I don't know how many people he released. Lots of them. 10,000, maybe even more. But he got the First Step Act in and started releasing black people from jail that should have never been in jail in the first place. If so, it should have been for like 4 or 5 months and not 15, 20, 30 years. What the hell? So they knew they had to come up with 15 million fake black votes to allow Biden to win, because they knew Trump was going to win in a landslide. And so they needed to pump up. So that's where those 15 million fake votes came from. And then you didn't see it in 2024 because they were waiting for the trucks with those fake ballots to come in, and they were stopping them at the door and stopping them at the gate. And so they didn't get all these fake ballots in to steal this election. And that's why Trump won. And Trump won pretty much by a landslide this time as well. But that's what's going on. And it shows that blacks have realized, especially black men, black women, who know, you know.
Oh, Kamala. Okay, so she can only say one sentence at a time. How did she pass law school? How is she a attorney, a city attorney for San Francisco, and then the state attorney general? How could she be so stupid?
So now you've seen the videos. You understand what I'm talking about. You should get a sense that a major crime was committed against the American people. A major crime. Committed against the American people by the Democratic Party. Violating their constitutional rights. Violating their rights all the way up and down the Constitution. And they need to go fitted for a seatbelt in an electric vehicle. Or an electric chair, one of the two. I love you. Bye.